welcome.
Yeah, I love broccoli. Keep it in. Keep it in. I like broccoli, yeah.
Hello and welcome to How to Win the Broccoli, Season 21, Unadaptable, Book Number 1. This is how we're starting the season. We've already recorded 4 other episodes.
Oh, this is the first episode?
That's the first episode
That makes
because
sense.
tomorrow, as you're listening to this, on the day it comes out, as all 30,000 strong of you are, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is in theaters. Actually, tonight. You can go see it tonight.
Did you buy tickets to it?
No, my theater only just put them on sale.
Oh, and you didn't buy them?
Not yet. We will, though.
I'm wondering how big of a hit this movie is going to be.
Well, I saw a story posted a couple of weeks ago, or in the last 2 weeks, that said excitement had sort of plateaued. That when it first went on sale and first trailers went out or whatever, like it sold out like so many showtimes. And then I think there's just been like a stalled.
It's also much like our cherished Emily Wilson, getting hit with like this wave of right-wing troll bullshit because people are upset with various casting and historical inaccuracies. And
Who gives a shit?
yeah, I don't give a motherfucking shit.
Good.
I saw
This is The Odyssey by Homer, reading the translation by Emily Wilson.
The algorithm is complex and knows you better than your best friends know you. And so I got algorithmed into this thing where there's this guy speaking in like a reasonably knowledgeable way about why Emily Wilson's translation was garbage. And he was talking about specifically the scene where Emily Wilson has translated it so that Telemachus is saying that Telemachus is essentially scolding Penelope for telling him what to do. And
Telemachus, as played by Spider-Man's Tom Holland.
And he's saying in Emily Wilson's version, he's essentially like yelling at his mom. But in this guy is saying like this Greek word actually means this, and in previous translations it's been taken as like wise Telemachus is doing this, and Penelope looks on him as someone who is maturing and blah blah blah. And I was like, interesting that this guy, like maybe he knows what he's talking about, maybe he knows the Greek and all this stuff. And then I clicked on his name, and like so many of his videos were just like, here's what liberals want you to think about George Floyd. And I was just like, yeah, of course.
Because
Like these motherfuckers they're all the same.
So
they're all the same.
We are recording. We've never done this before. We are recording a part of this episode. There's only gonna be one episode. Recording part of this episode about the intro and the translator's note. So the first 90 pages of this version.
Yeah.
We have not read a single page. I read the Odyssey in high school. You've read this translation, right?
I've read this translation, and I teach the Odyssey. I think it's the it's like a heavily excerpted, abridged version of the Odyssey, but I think it's the Fitzgerald translation.
I think we read, because we read this in, what was it called? I had a class, because my high school had block scheduling, so it was 4 classes a day. They were each 90 minutes. And we had one class that was English and history combined. So you had that every day for the full year for 90 minutes. And we read this. I think we read the Iliad as well.
That rules.
But I remember, I think we read the full thing. Like, I don't think we read an abridged version.
Oh.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, we read a pretty heavily abridged version.
It is funny to me, going back to the video you just described, if you read the first 90 pages of this before you get to word 1 of the translation, to be like, yeah, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. Because like, I have no basis for this. It feels like the way she writes, she is the smartest person who's ever written a book. That not only that we've covered, but that like,
I mean, she's an academic that's an expert in her field, and I think that there are probably, and she addresses this in her note, there are definitely good faith disagreements to be had about her translation, right? Because every translation is an interpretation, and every translation is as much the work of the translator as it is the original author.
But what I like about this is that she's like, here's why I translated the way I did. Like, I wanted to have the same number of lines. I wanted to focus with this. I wanted to like have these kind of things. And like, even if you disagree, to your point, she has a reason why she did everything.
Yeah, and having the same number of lines is
seems really hard.
Yeah, and she translated it from was it dactylic hexameter to iambic pentameter, which is like
Shakespeare.
I think dactylic hexameter. I think that's what it was originally in. Is like the traditional mode of Greek poetry, and iambic pentameter is something that English audiences are much more familiar with, and we're at least the academically inclined are sort of honed to read in that mode.
There's also the thing that you put in the text thread with me and the Eggster, where she's like, look, I know that people want this translation to read like it's, from the 1700s or whatever, but like, that's not really closer to what it was. Like, it's the same, like if I modernize the text, like, and I love that part of it where she's like, I'm going to write this in a way that basically opens it up to new readers.
Yeah. And the
dactylic hexameter, you're right.
The idea is, that modern English, like our contemporary English, is no further away from ancient Greek than the
like George
British
Washington's
English.
English. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So like for like a modern translator to be like doth and using the language, like English languages of the past, it like is faux authenticity.
Right.
And it is embracing this idea of poetry that existed aesthetically during a very specific time period, but to adapt it to that language now would be as inauthentic as them adapting it to like a different era's
right.
standards. It's very, very strange. You know what it reminded me of was, you're going to bleep out his name here because he's going to sound like a fucking idiot. I think he's going to sound like an idiot. But at the draft, we were on the second floor.
I already assume I know who you're talking about, but I don't know.
No,
I don't know the story.
You don't know who it is.
Oh.
We were on the second floor balcony. I was like talking about getting sunburned, and Tom was like, yeah, it's because you're like closer to the sun from when you're on the ground. And I'm just like, well, there is 93 million miles between us and the sun. You think the 12 feet between us and the deck is the thing that's going to burn my
skin? In his
skin?
defense, that was after we all had Matt's drink and we were all so stoned.
Do you remember
Yes.
that conversation? I was just like, come on, dude.
I remember, but he didn't say this a joke. He said it like he believed it, but I don't think a sober version of that conversation would have gone like that.
But I was also okay. All right, but but that principle is the same thing.
Yes,
right. It's like because that language feels old, it must be closer to ancient Greek.
Like it's the same thing. Like when I was in college and I took a class and we read like Beowulf or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, it's Old English." I'm like, "Well, it's still English." It's like, no, that's a different thing.
No, it's like closer to German.
Right. And I'm just like, how does that? But like to me, it's like, oh, like Old English. Like to me, Old English is like Shakespeare. It's like, that's not the same. Like that's modern English.
Yeah,
essentially
early modern English.
But yeah, so the intro, like I said, so there's the intro, there's a translator's note. I said this before I started recording. She is writing this intro for people who have read the Odyssey, know the story of the Odyssey, and are here to read her version of it.
Yeah.
It is a pretty fully spoilered, very long overview of like the themes of her process, of all of that. Going so far as to like quote from like the final book of the thing. Like it's just like, this is where we are.
Yeah. And she anticipates criticisms and kind of addresses them. She has, a postmodern take on things. She has a kind of Marxist take on things. She has a post-colonial take on things, and she has a feminist take on things. And those are all things that every single one of those things pisses people off. Yeah. And every single one of those things, when they piss people off, it's because the people getting pissed off don't understand those things. Right. They don't understand that is not, Marxism is not, at least as far as literary criticism is concerned, Marxism is not political dogma. It is a method of analysis. Mm-hmm. Feminism is not political dogma. It is a method of analysis, et cetera, et cetera. And she seems to be making these interpretations, again, in good faith, and she backs it up with a bunch of reasons. The post-colonial stuff about Polyphemus being like a symbol of the Greeks invading Sicily and being like, hey, guess what? We can like do whatever we want with these people because they don't even have agriculture. They're just like herding animals, and they like look different from us. And the establishment of Xenia as this like reason to invade because strangers who don't immediately invite you into your house are weirdos, so you can attack them because they're not like you, right? That has such political relevance to modern day.
My big takeaway from that section is that she's just like, The Italians olive oil, that's a Greek thing. It's just like, no, you can't take that from.
The other thing that I thought about, which is something I think I disagree with her on, but we can let this. It's an aesthetic decision that she makes, and I'm interested in like exploring that now. Is like she talks about repetition and how repetition is a fundamental part of the oral storytelling structure.
Yes,
and how she has excised a lot of that repetition and replaced it with other words in order to make it a modern reading experience rather than a modern listening experience.
Because she was saying that like in the modern reading experience, when there was repetition, people are like, they automatically, even if they don't consciously think it, they're like, oh, I can skip this because I know what this is. Yeah, I don't need to read
which happens with your brain automatically, much in the similar way that when people write, he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she said, your brain doesn't have to do the work. With that, it just absorbs that. And it's a signifier for who the person is, but you don't have to do the work to understand who it is.
So
go ahead.
Side question here. When you read this previously, I'm assuming you read the intro and the translator's note. Do you remember how that plays out or you don't really remember?
No, I think I hadn't. I think that was not as much one of my interests at the time that I was reading it. So it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me as hard.
That's pre-podcast.
Yeah. I don't know when this, do you know when this book came out? Okay. So 2018 is when I read it. So this was.
And the Iliad came out in 23.
Yeah. I haven't read the Iliad yet, but I own it.
I know the egg is annoyed that and I would be annoyed too, that the spines are not aligned. Like it does not say Emily Wilson at the top or it says, one's at the bottom, one's at the
It's an aesthetic decision.
Do not get me started on like Blu-ray sets that like look a little bit off, like infuriates me. Anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Go on. But yes, I think that was an important point about the repetition. And
well, I have a lot of notes about repetition here, which is that
I took fewer notes on this because I know that you have a lot of notes.
Yeah. So repetition drives you toward a pattern in an uncertain world. Like she says that in there, right? That this is it's not a realistic book. And so repetition is a way to settle you into a world that you've never seen or understood before.
Right.
Because at the time of oral translation, there's also Homeric similes do this, because a Homeric simile is essentially a comparison of a normal everyday thing to something that is supernatural. But the difference between us and them is that they'd never seen the supernatural things, right? We have television,
right?
And we have all of these visual depictions of gods and things like that. They only have imagination. And so you have to compare Hermes skipping across the water to a gull diving, because you know what a gull diving looks like.
Right.
And so you can go, this is what that thing is. But the repetition is a way to ground you in a world that otherwise, like, you're not necessarily being grounded in.
Well, it's also part of the whole oral tradition. And it's like, I think there's something funny to me about whether or not Homer is a real person. I don't know. I ultimately don't care. But it is also funny to me that, like, just like Shakespeare, like, there's probably a contingent of people just like, one guy couldn't have written this. Like, it's the same thing where it's like, what does it matter? Like, I don't care. Although the points that she makes, because she spends a lot of time about like, well, there was one person or different people, or like why a bard would not, like somebody who was able to write would not be able to tell stories, or the same, like all this like different things, like where she's basically like, she's kind of playing both sides of it, and not like in a way that's like indifferent. But
yeah,
I think it's funny that just like people are like, it couldn't have been one guy.
Right.
But also that's the thing where like the reason I brought that up now is because about the repetitions, like this came from the oral tradition where like repetition is like when people have to like, I guess it's like public speaking where it's like instead of saying like whatever, like you say the same thing again. It's like, I'm just resetting here, baby.
It's the hook to a song. It's the like from listening to Comedy Bang Bang that like people who do accents like in or like weird voices, like they have like a phrase or something that centers them that they can get back to so that they can do that voice, right? Yeah. So it functions that way. It reflects the use of repetition in like postmodern narrative, which can also serve to moor you in an inconsistent and shifting world. Like postmodernism, like someone like Kathy Acker uses a lot of repetition in a world that is also like really crazy and insane to bring you down and to keep things going, while also like critiquing the idea of mass market repetition, advertisements, like all that mass corporate stuff.
I want to show you one thing really quickly. It's not related to that, but I wanted to show you this before. You mentioned Kathy Acker.
Yeah.
I found a thing that I love. I want to get one. I don't think I'm going to get it because I think it's already gone. But I found this thing. It's a different Kathy.
Is it Kathy Gieswhite?
Got some. Oh no, it's Nancy.
Oh, Nancy. Yeah, I
Got
love
some
Nancy.
Nancy's in the mail though. It's just like a sheet of Nancy faces.
Yeah. I love Nancy. Yeah.
Why did I think her name was Kathy?
Because of the comic strip Kathy.
Kathy Acker. Right. Okay. Anyway.
So Deleuze in a book called Difference and Repetition writes about how, and this is where I disagree with Emily Wilson, and we'll figure out if I continue to disagree with her by the end. So he writes how repetition is like sort of like a river that you can't step in twice because the context for that repetition always changes. So rosy-fingered dawn arriving early does so. You can count on it, but the beauty of rosy-fingered dawn might be bitter because the beaches are covered in bodies, or it might be affirming because Penelope is finally in Odysseus's arms, or like how the consistent epithet for prudent for Penelope in different contexts can almost be prefaced by even now, like under the circumstances, she remains prudent. So repetition always functions as a reminder of the changes that exist around repetition.
Yeah.
Right. And so Wilson consciously betrays this in an appeal to the modern reader because she thinks the modern reader will not understand that or will not
Or gloss over it.
will not absorb that in the way that
And that's what you disagree with her about.
in the aesthetic function of it. Yeah. So I disagree with her moving away from that repetition. I understand why, because I think in a pop culture way, in a mass market paperback kind of way, that sort of repetition is less appealing. But I think that, like, for the sake of the story and for the sake of maintaining that chain to a real world while unreality happens around you, I think it's a valuable function. I think there's a valuable function to repetition. So I'm fascinated to see where that goes. I think I love this book. I love this translation of it. So that as a criticism is not even really a criticism. It's just something that I'm going like, well, here's where I disagree.
My one big note that I texted you yesterday is that I can't believe that when she's talking about like who was Homer, does Homer exist? Is Homer one person or not? It's like stories about a guy who wants to go home.
Yeah. Also, we agreed in various threads that if I had a male son, I would name him Homer.
Homer Shreds is a good name. Shreds your first name or your last name?
It's a mononym.
Like Zendaya.
Yeah.
So you're playing a female.
Or Madonna. Yeah. Homer. And that Homer was it's not even Homer, Odyssey Homer. Nor is it really Homer Simpson from The Simpsons. It's Homer Simpson from
Miss
Nathaniel
Lonely
West.
Hearts, or is it Data Locust? Great book.
What a great book.
I also do want to, like, in terms of, I have other notes, but I have not read Ulysses.
Me neither.
I know that Ulysses is like a hallmark of modern whatever. It's just funny to me that like Ulysses is just like the translation of Odysseus. It's like, well, that's just what it's called. Like it's such a straightforward, like that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the Roman translation, right?
I think so. But also it's funny to, like, we had a president basically named Odysseus.
Yeah, that rules. They should do the Odyssey during the Civil War.
Ulysses S. Grant. I'm sure that has been done.
It must be, right? Yeah.
I have things about the translator's note. I don't know if you want to talk about that separately.
We can. The other thing that I have is that her comments on geography also reflect a postmodern sensibility because the reality of an actual non-narrative Earth warps to match the conveniences of storytelling. So the Straits of Messina become the home of Scylla, Cyclops Island of Sicily, etc. Odysseus is lost and bounced around a stretch of land that feels epic, but is actually like kind of like getting lost in a parking garage for hours. By modern standards, like the amount of space that he's actually lost in, like he shouldn't be gone for 20 years. It doesn't make sense.
He's fighting for 10 years and he's lost for 10 years, right? Like it's
and also 7 of those 10 years that he's lost for are on Calypso's island.
It's also like, again, I have not read this in close to 25 years. I've never read this translation, but it's like she's like he kind of wants to be there because like he's with a woman who like can actually keep up with him in like intellect wise.
Yeah. Also, not like.
Also, she's fine.
One reason why we teach the abridged version, I think, is because the Odyssey is also like hella horny and like incredibly violent. So we cut out a lot of that stuff, and to like the chagrin of the students, I'm sure, because that's actually the stuff that makes kids want to read. But so I think that postmodern stuff like exists in all areas of it.
I like her personal connection to it, that she's like, I was 8 years old, I was cast as Athena.
That's great.
That's great. Like,
yeah, because I think that's how so much of literature and everything, like you come to love it through things like that. It's beautiful.
I have two two quotes, one longer one shorter one, very close together that I copied from the translator's note, where she writes, "My translation is like all translations, an entirely different text from the original poem. Translation always necessarily involves interpretation. There is no such thing as a translation that provides anything like a transparent window through which a reader can see the original.
Yeah.
The gendered metaphor of the quote-unquote faithful translation, whose worth is always secondary to that of a male-authored original, acquires a particular edge in the context of a translation by a woman of the Odyssey, a poem that is deeply invested in female fidelity and male dominance," which I am guessing every other person who translates just like, we don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, there's something, and again, this speaks to, I think and again, this also might be me seeing it through modern eyes, but like, I think a lot of the horniness of the book comes from Odysseus, a most powerful man, being like constantly under the thumb of more powerful women and being submissive to them, right? So he's submissive to Athena, he's submissive to Circe, he's submissive to Calypso. Penelope matches him step for step. There's all of that stuff.
Which I'm very interested in. There's more of the quote that I want to read, but I'm very interested in how Nolan approaches this, because he doesn't do women in his movies.
This is what I think. I think that we're going to get a meathead version of this, because I think for all of the puzzle box claim that Christopher Nolan is an intelligent filmmaker, I think he's, the deepest frat bro. I don't think he's like someone that's he's not Kubrick.
What I love about Interstellar is he's just like, what if time travel is based on love? It's like, that's like that's a stoner thought. But like, I love that because like nobody's done that really before, right? But like Oppenheimer doesn't interest me. A lot of his stuff is just like, okay, like Inception is boring to me. Mm-hmm. Visually stunning, like people like that create a whole new wave of doing things. That's all great, but it's just like once you've seen it, it's just like I don't need to see the rotating hallway again.
I think the adaptation is almost inevitably going to be a disappointment. I think what will be interesting about it is seeing $250 million on a screen to render the last Dragonians and the Cyclops.
But it's also going to be seemingly a lot of the Iliad too, right? We've talked about.
I don't know. It's so weird because it's like the trailer is the Trojan horse stuff, which is like not in the Odyssey.
Right.
A lot of the like controversial casting decisions, Elliot Page as Achilles, like Achilles is in the Odyssey for 5 seconds. Casting a movie star in that role is bizarre if it's just to nod at that movie star. Elliot Page is a fantastic actor. He should be doing something bigger than that. But I don't know. I don't know what Nolan's going to do with it.
It's a little on the nose, but what if the Odyssey is just a Trojan horse into telling the story of the Iliad?
It would be weird because you should do the Iliad first.
Yeah, well.
Why not just do the Iliad first?
The quote continues, "I have taken very seriously the task of understanding the language of the original text as deeply as I can and working through what Homer may have meant in archaic and classical Greece. I have also taken seriously the task of creating a new and coherent English text which conveys something of that understanding but operates within an entirely different cultural context. The Homeric text grows inside my translation like Athena's olive tree inside the bed made by Odysseus, quote, with delicate long leaves, full-grown and green, as sturdy as a pillar." Like, I don't know how you can read something like that and be like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, it's just like, right. You might not agree, but it's like she is taking the time and like, I'm going to do this in a way that I feel is reflective of the text in today's society.
That's exactly the problem, is that these guys think that, and this is also why they don't like postmodernism, by the way, is because they think they have a handle on the truth, and they do not have a handle on the truth. They see something and then they can't break away from their version of it. It's the same people that get, really, really up in arms over fidelity to comic book movies.
Right.
And it's no different than that. Without the recognition that we have infinite resources to reinterpret. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the person reinterpreting it probably is significantly more credible than the people criticizing her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's almost always the case.
Yeah. The thing is that I don't know if there are any scholars that are, maybe this is something that I'll look up. If there are any legitimate scholars, Homeric scholars, and not just fucking guys on YouTube that are angry about this. I bet there are probably some, because, but if there are, then I would hope that those people have good faith arguments and fights over it. And it's not just like, these are my politics, and so I'm angry about Emily Wilson's translation, which is the thing that really annoys me.
It feels like to me, I'm not a reply guy, so I'm not thinking of how they do it, but it feels to me like if you are a Homeric scholar and someone who is very intelligent and has spent a lot of time and like seemingly devoted their life to like this kind of stuff is like, hey, I've got a new translation of the Odyssey. How is it not like the most exciting thing in the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a new take on this.
Like, let's see what this person does with it, right? Instead of fucking, I don't know, starting Twitter beef. It's like meet on the battlefields of like a literary conference or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. But that's the problem with, and the blessing of the democratization of academics through the internet is that everyone's an expert, even the people who aren't experts, and they think that they can attack you.
They think they're the most expert.
Yeah, because again, they don't understand that nobody really possesses the truth.
We have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me, and while we have still most of this episode to go, we're going to read Egg's email about the intro.
Oh, I didn't know that she was doing this.
She wrote in an email about the intro.
Yeah, cool,
Meg's
cool.
reaction to the introduction of the Odyssey. Usually I won't read introductions like these, the Egg writes, if it's the first time I'm reading a book. So while this is my second time reading the Odyssey cover to cover, it's probably the first time I've read the introduction. Because you said to her, she told you about that this was happening.
She's the one that told, because Egg is she loves
Emily Dickinson more than anything else.
Well, Emily Dickinson, but also she loves like Greek mythology. Like she loved like the Madeline Miller book on Circe. She's big into this stuff. This is very much her world. So when this came out, she was like, hey, you should read this. And I was like, cool, I will. And then I saw that R.L. Stine blurbed it.
That's really funny.
Do you have the R.L. Stine blurb?
Not on the back of this one.
Give it to me. I'll find it.
Is it in here somewhere?
Yeah, it'll take 2 seconds for me to find it.
Oh, wait. Poetry that reads like a thriller.
Yeah.
R.L. Stine, author of the Goosebumps series.
Yeah, like that's so funny to get R.L. Stine to. Emily, we reached out to Emily Wilson to interview her, but she was very busy, and so politely declined. But like, I think my first question would have been like, how did you get R.L. Stine to blurb your book? That's such a weird blurb to get.
Have I said on the podcast before that my mom reminded me recently that when I was in like second grade or something, my teacher was like, he reads a lot, but he only reads Goosebumps. And like, we'd really like to see him read other stuff. My mom was like, just be happy that he's reading.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
yeah, whatever.
I love those Goosebumps. Say cheese or die. Say cheese and die. It's probably the first time I've read the introduction, Egg says. I'm not 100% certain because the Odyssey is one of these things where it kind of already is in the public consciousness in a way that you already kind of know most of the beats of the story. All that being said, while you don't need to read the introduction, it provides excellent context of the story and to the specific translation. I especially like the parallel discussed between the end of the Iliad and this story, where Odysseus is hidden, either in the Trojan horse or as a beggar, and then emerges to slaughter everyone. The translator's note, which is 10 pages of the first 90, is what made me read this book the first time. I think it was published through The Guardian or something. I just love the fact that the goal was a readable text of the same soul of the original, with the fact that she chose to do iambic pentameter, the spoken poetry that English speakers are most familiar with. I don't remember if she necessarily says this outright, but she at least touches upon the fact that this is an adaptation of the original text by saying that the translation is a brand new text. And rather than hiding behind archaic language, she chooses to make it more accessible.
Yeah.
I also love how she picks specific epithets for each person depending on the scene. The repetition was useful for blind bards, but not necessarily to read the text, which you disagree with. But
yeah, I disagree.
All in all, I'm excited to read this version of the Odyssey again.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. This is maybe the highlight of this.
Are you psyched or are you Psyche, Emily Wilson's daughter?
Don't bring that into it. That feels mean to comment on in public.
I like that. To me is just like she is into this in a way that like is like trust her bona fides.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break and come back and read and then talk about
yes, sir.
the Odyssey.
I was thinking just now it would be funny if Spike Lee did a version of the Odyssey because it would be called Duh Odyssey. You know how he does that?
Yeah.
Duh Five Bloods.
How would
Duh Sweet Blood of Jesus.
Could Prince, the Odyssey wouldn't do odd E, the letter C, maybe, if Prince did it? Or he just did the 2 and the U, right?
Yeah.
The Odyssey 2. I don't know. Anyway.
You could do the thing about the Odyssey and adaptations of the Odyssey is that so many things feel like adaptations of the Odyssey.
Right.
Like the Warriors feels like an adaptation of the Odyssey a little bit, right? Because it's the Warriors trying to get home, Coney Island.
I have a lot of thoughts about, because I read this in high school. I read this again. I remembered some of it. We were talking at dinner about how much of this book is just like in everything else, intentionally or unintentionally. But like so much of this is like he's been gone 20 years, and this whole book is like, he's back now. Like he's hanging out. And then at the end of the book, he's like, I got to go again because like I got to go get the sheep.
Yeah.
It's like, God, you just got home. Just like relax.
But the gods promised him.
But yes, there are so many things where like any kind of hero's journey is kind of this, where he just goes and then comes back. But I'm the thing, and I'm jumping sort of late in the thing, and I want to talk. We have lots to talk about, but the thing that I'm most interested in about how they will adapt this, how Christopher Nolan will adapt this, is the structure of this is so weird in that almost all of the action, other than the bloodshed at the end, is told in flashback.
Yeah.
And almost all of like the most time spent in like present tense, present day, is just people sitting around drinking.
Yeah, sitting at a table, chatting it up.
I'm just curious how that will, because we were talking about the trailer, like there's the Helen of Troy and there's like all that stuff. It's like that's not in here, but like maybe if he's flashing back, he's flashback to anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess because there is in the trailer there is the Trojan horse, and you only really get the only thing about the Trojan horse is when he specifically asks Demodocus to sing about the horse,
right?
And that makes him start crying.
Well, also Helen is in this too, right? Or no?
Yeah, Helen is Menelaus's
wife.
Yeah, no, not Menelaus. Yeah, Menelaus. Yeah,
right. So like, there's a little bit, but like I can see. This is a dumb question. We also might have talked about this in the intro. Is the Iliad the first 10 years of this journey, or like it's part of?
No, it's the war,
but that is within the first 10 years.
Yeah.
So he's like gone for 10 years, and then he's like sort of stranded for 10 years.
Yeah, well, no, the Iliad is not Odysseus' story.
Oh, is Odysseus in it?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not Odysseus. It's not about Odysseus.
Okay.
Odysseus is just like a guy that's in it.
Okay.
So it would be almost like if they made another book after this, and then it was like, this book is about Eumaeus or something like that. Or,
right.
Or Polyphemus.
Right. I like that Eumaeus, there's a little bit of a undercover boss situation going on.
Yeah. That's true. There's a lot of undercover boss situations going on in this book.
You also had a very funny description of the type of liar that Odysseus is.
Oh, yeah. Because they keep calling him the king of lies. Like he's such a good liar. But everything that Odysseus says is like the most convoluted bullshit that you don't need to lie about. Like Penelope's like, where, stranger, where are you from? And he was like, let me tell you about this lady's brooch that I saw one time. And just like, why are you lying about that?
Right.
And he like does this thing that people do when they lie, where he's like, I will tell you nothing but the truth right now. I'm going to be honest. I'm not even going to lie.
There's also like
my name is Philo, and I'm from Crete. It's like, why are you? She just be like, I'm a homeless dude.
Yeah, like I'm from down the street.
But like so much of his like, I mean, and this is like a fundamental part of his character is that like Odysseus has such a huge ego that even when he's disguised as a beggar, he has to like lay claim to some past greatness.
Right.
You know, like even when he is pretending to be this low down, worthless person, he has to be like, but that's because the gods did me wrong. I'm actually a great warrior who knew your husband and fought alongside
And also, yeah, by
him.
the way, I met Odysseus and he really liked me.
Yeah, and then he's like, God like Odysseus. God like Odysseus. No one ever was as handsome as Odysseus.
Again, I don't want to spend too much time on the translation of it because we talked a lot about that in the intro. But toward the end, like in the final throes, where it's like you don't need to hide yourself from these people at this point.
Yeah.
But like
He loves it.
She writes lying Odysseus said, but it's like, it's not lying, comma, Odysseus said. It's just lying Odysseus said. So it's just like his title in that moment is I'm lying Odysseus, and here's some bullshit I'm about to spew out. It's just like, okay, like it's just, he's like, I'm this beggar from this thing. Exactly what you were just saying.
Because even after he kills all the suitors, he goes up and he's still like pretending to be a beggar to Penelope.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he wants to like test her loyalty a little bit. And then she tests his loyalty. She's like, I don't know. Are you Odysseus? What about this bed? And then he does.
It's funny to me that like the only thing he has to be is like, I built the bed around the tree. It's like, oh, you are him. But like, you could know that. Like you could have just heard that, or you could have seen the bed.
Yeah, that's some famous shit. Like he's definitely bragging all around Ithaca about having built that bed. But then he also does it to his poor dad.
Right.
Later on, he's like, oh, I'm a beggar.
This is maybe me being dumb or me trying to explain to myself why he was lying. But like Telemachus is like, Grandpa. I'm like, does Grandpa not mean like what I think it means? Because like, why are you lying to your father this much?
Yeah.
But no. It's also funny to me in terms of the end book lies and ways he reveals the truth of it all is that he only needs to show his boar scar and people are like, oh my God, it's you.
Yeah.
But like Athena can change entirely how he looks, but not the scar, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's funny that to multiple people, like to the woman who like washes his feet, and then even to Penelope, he's like, check the scar out.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, it's you. Are we supposed to like him?
I don't think you are really. You're supposed to like admire him. And I think this is some of the work that Emily Wilson's translation is
because
doing. I think he's more heroic and less like dastardly in other translations of the Odyssey.
Because I think a lot of what is, to use a current word, problematic about him is kind of just like what dudes were like back then. Like they're going to rape and plunder and whatever.
Yeah,
like that's just like
for sure.
But she is kind of reckoning with that. But it's like this guy is like a heroic version of this type of person. But like it kind of feels like we should root for none of these guys. I don't know.
Yeah, even Telemachus. Like when you get to, and I feel like we've talked a lot about the end without talking about the beginning at all. But when Odysseus at the very end is like, get these slaves to clean the blood.
Yeah.
And when they're finished cleaning the blood, take them outside and kill them with swords.
Yeah.
And Telemachus is like...
Did I call him Telemachus? That's how I pronounce it in my head. Is it Telemachus?
Telemachus, yeah. At least that's how I pronounce it in my head.
Tom Holland.
I want to say that there's going to be a lot of mispronunciations.
Well, there is the one place that is A-E-A-E-A, and I do not know how to pronounce it.
I think it's Aea.
Yeah, it could be probably, wrong. But also like that's a crazy thing to name a place.
After Odysseus is like, kill them with swords, kill them cleanly. Telemachus is like, no, we're going to hang them. And it's like, it's interesting because it is in some ways the Bildungsroman of Telemachus. We're watching Telemachus grow into an adult through this thing. Even though up until that scene, he's very much like, Daddy, like you have to like, please, like kill them. But in that scene, like the way that we see that Telemachus has become his own man is that he's like evolved the cruelty of Odysseus. I don't know, but yeah, I think there are. I think Emily Wilson is more willing to highlight the things that we, through a modern lens, look at and think of as problematic. I think when people think of that, they think that that's bad or that like it's quote unquote looking at it through like a woke lens. But whether or not something is problematic has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not something is good literature.
Right.
And you can analyze things while still loving a book. I think people who think that you criticize Odysseus for being a kind of person, then they go, well, that's how it was back then. It's like, well, I don't care how it was back then. That's we're still like analyzing him because, you know, that's what we do.
Also, as though it's not clear, this book rules, this translation rules, read this. It's also hard. I was saying to you at dinner that I like to tease Egg on this podcast for like all in all, like what is there to say about a thing. But like here, it's like this book is so prevalent throughout all of society and culture and so much literature that we have read and that like has been written otherwise that it really feels like why even bother trying to like talk about it? Because like it is so like without this.
Yeah.
so much of like storytelling would be fundamentally different.
Okay, well, I'll say a couple of things that I think are really interesting about this book.
This translation or this book? In
Just the story that are still worth talking about. Number one is the structure, that it starts in media res. You start with Telemachus for some reason, and then you go to Odysseus, and Odysseus is already on Calypso's
I don't
island.
think you get to. I don't think he's like in there until like book 9 or something. Like it's like the middle third of the book. It's like the first third of the book. He's only talked of.
Yeah,
it's also funny to me. Sorry, one last thing.
Please.
That like Telemachus has waited 20 years basically and just like, I'm going to go out. And then it's like, as he decides to go out, he's just like, well, I'm coming home anyway. Just like, okay, like it's the kind of thing where, what's the example of the movie? Oh, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, where like if Indiana Jones had never touched it, the story would be the same. It's like Telemachus just sits at home for an extra like 2 months. Like nothing is different.
Right.
Except maybe suitors are like less pissed at him because he didn't try to go out and find him. But anyway, continue.
A third of the way into the book, you meet Odysseus for the first time, and he's on Calypso's island, and then he leaves Calypso's island, goes to Menelaus, and then tells his whole story.
Right. Which is crazy, and I wonder how that's going to be in the movie. Like that's what I was saying before about like so much of this is told through flashbacks. And there's one book that even like, and I wonder what it was like in different translations, but like it feels like Emily Wilson kind of ends one book with a joke where he's just like, but like you already know this part. Like I'm not gonna tell you this part again, like because like now we're here.
Yeah.
Where it's like I don't need to like now we're at the part of the story that like because the part of the story is like me telling this part of the story or whatever.
Yeah. There's a part in The Tempest that's like, because I know this because I just saw a production of The Tempest the other day where I think it's Stefano is Caliban is trying to tell him a story that he's already told him, and like exactly like that, Stefano just goes, yeah, I've heard it. And he just like cuts him off. So the audience doesn't get that story a second time. But like that structure is really strange because you don't have the dramatic arc that you expect. And also you don't, even at the end, Odysseus is never in danger. Right. You never think Odysseus is not going to get home because even when people are throwing spears at Odysseus, Athena just makes those spears not hit him.
There's like, especially at the end when like it's a him against like 6 suitors or whatever, and she's just like, no, that one goes there, the other one hits the door. It's just like
yeah. It's you're never really all that worried for
which
Odysseus.
is also a little funny to think about, like when you were talking about Odysseus, lying Odysseus or whatever, where it's like living in this era, you could be like, oh, the gods hate me today. Like I just can't get anything right. It's like, well, in this reality, like maybe they do. Mm-hmm. It's also funny to me that like in this world, you could be talking to someone, that person could then become an owl and fly off, and you're not like, am I going crazy? It's like, oh, I was just talking to a god. That seems like the craziest reaction to anything. And like, that's the only reaction anybody has. So like, did you see that person become a bird? Like that was a god. It's like, no, like that's a crazy thing. Like a leap to make. Insane.
Yeah. If I saw that once, it would change the rest of my life.
Yeah. But like, oh, wow. Like he was aided by the gods.
I guess it was Athena or maybe someone else who turned into a bird. Yeah. It's like it would be a very strange existence.
I do like that there's a little owl on each book. Like she's like always there.
Yeah. Athena's great. But so the structure is something that I think is really fascinating. Like all the way through from beginning to end, I think it's a really, really interesting structure to the book. The other thing that I think is really interesting is it's not the sexual politics of the book, but the ways in which the book is horny and the ways in which it isn't. I said one thing that's really interesting about, and I think I texted you guys this, the translation of this book is there's a part where Calypso is like, my body's better than Penelope's. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what? Like, that's such a strange way to put that and such a modern way to put it. But it's like, obviously, that sentiment has probably existed since the beginning of time. And so her saying that is, it's weird, but it's like, why wouldn't you just say it like that?
Well, right. Because what she is saying is like, why would you want to go home and get old with your wife when you could just like stay here and be a god and like have sex with me? Like who's hotter than she is? Yeah.
And this is something that Emily Wilson talks a little bit about in the introduction, but I think is interesting. Like the sex in this book comes from this very strange place of you have this warrior man who is dominant and he is he's like in very many ways the ideal of masculinity, which is that he is muscular, athletic, beautiful. He's like blessed by the gods. There are many times when they talk about how beautiful he is, even though he's, how old would you say he is?
I don't know, like 40 maybe?
40 if he was 20 when he had Telemachus.
Right.
Right? Okay. But like, so he's
because you think about like 20 going off to war feels right.
Yeah.
Basically.
So he's meant to be beautiful. He's also incredibly smart, clever, obviously very loving of Penelope. And in many ways, he's this ideal man who traditionally at this time and for the next thousands of years would be such a dominant sexual force. But he is domed by these women, by Calypso, by Circe, right? In some ways Athena doesn't have a sexual relationship.
But Athena has all the power in that relationship.
Yeah, but so she has there's this dom sub thing between Odysseus and these more powerful women who control him. And
is that in other translations too, or no?
No, yeah, I think, that's the vibe, right? Okay. Calypso and Odysseus, there's no secret that even when I teach this to freshmen, it's like, there's no secret what's going on with them on that island.
Well, because like what's interesting, and I guess it's just because we talked about this in the intro about like how she chose to be, the ways in which she wanted to be like faithful to the original and the translation, but also opportunities she saw to modernize it and whatever. And you were saying that like it's horny, there's a lot of sex, but like it's never explicit. They're just like, after the lovemaking was done, like they talk about it, like she writes or he writes and she translates or whatever, that it is very clear that these two characters just had sex or that was part of what they were doing or whatever. But it's not like, and then because like the violence is very graphic, like where the body parts, like the arrows go into, the swords go into, or whatever,
or that one part where it's like he slapped him against the concrete like a puppy, like smashed his brains out like wet puppy's brains or something. Is that
what I sent you guys? I think
it's about the Cyclops like cracking their skulls on the ground.
That's not like the sex. It's not like, and then his member, like even like in vagaries or whatever.
The only one that was like struck me as particularly horny in a way that was a little bit shocking to me was when they're recounting the story of, I think it's like Hephaestus and Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is chained to the rock. And for some reason, someone like asks Hermes what he would do to her. And he's like, what wouldn't I do to her? And also you could all watch if you wanted.
Right.
And it's like, that is like really horny for a book like this.
But he made no reply and showed no mercy. Leaping up high, he reached his hands towards my men, seized two and knocked them hard against the ground like puppies. And the floor was wet with brains.
Yeah.
And that's the Cyclops just like fucking like cleaning house. Also,
the floor was wet with brains.
The same way that like in watching Stagecoach when we did that for Too Fast, Too Forever, I was like, oh, riding shotgun is literally like when you ride next to a guy holding a shotgun so that like when people try to like jack your Stagecoach, like you can like defend yourself. The end of this book, I'm like, is this where like the phrase cleaning house comes from? Or just like,
I don't know. I never thought of it.
It's just like, we got to like clean this house of bodies and smells and blood.
Yeah.
Because like cleaning house is always like, we need to fire everybody. Like everything's got to go. Here, just like, because like cleaning house is like, you clean the house or whatever. But like, this is like, no, we have to clean this house.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, yes.
So the second book is interesting to me because it's atypical in that for most of it, women have power. Mm-hmm. Women have the power, even though Odysseus has shown himself to be like unfaithful. And if Penelope were unfaithful, that would be a problem for him. But not even really, because Helen is unfaithful to Menelaus and they seem fine.
Right.
But so like there is that there is a weird thing about what like cheating on one's spouse means in this time.
I guess, I mean,
it's sort of expected for Odysseus to do it. Like no one's thinking Odysseus is gone for 20 years not having any sex.
It's the same thing. And I wonder how much of that is also framed by like modern whatever, where it's like fucked up. And I don't know this like in my personal life, obviously, but like men of like are couples of a certain status or level. It's just like you're above fidelity.
Well, yeah, there's always, I mean, you think of Mad Men or something like that,
right,
or anything from the 50s. Like everyone has a mistress, it seems.
Right. Just like part of culture, or like The Sopranos or whatever. But still, it feels not that the women are like happy about it, but they're just like, this is just what he does. Like I'm a king. Like everybody wants to bed the king. And so like but I got my pieces on the side or whatever. But also it does seem like in here, like Penelope is like literally in a home full of men. I mean, they all have like less than pure intentions, but like literally a home filled with men who want to marry her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want any of you.
Yeah.
It's not like she's like on a dating show or whatever, like sleeping with all of them and just like trying to like whatever. It's like, no, I'm actively trying to remove the power by like undoing the work and like extending the promise.
Doesn't that kind of seem like an SNL sketch though?
A little bit.
Penelope on a dating show.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
and then Homer like kills everyone.
Yeah,
not Homer, Odysseus.
Who's Homer? The author, the writer.
Yeah, the blind poet.
So okay, going back a bit in the conversation, I'm sorry to the listener who we are bouncing around.
It's of a form with the text,
and I'm going to talk about that now in terms of it being in media res and then going back and telling the whole flashback or whatever. The thing that I was trying to keep in mind as I was reading was so much of this is like an oral tradition written. And so these are all just stories that people knew, and he cobbled this together. Like whether all of this was created by Homer or none of this was created by Homer, it doesn't matter. It's like he assembled this story. But how much of the story, do you have any idea? Like how much of the story, like the sirens or the Cyclops or whatever, was that a story that existed already and he just like took it and put it like a pastiche and put it into his story?
I think that it must. I think a lot of it must be like that.
Right. And he just structured it in a way. Mm-hmm. But like a lot of it just like, it's not like one thing really leads to another. It's like, well, then we did the Cyclops and then we sailed by the sirens and then we just like did this. Yeah. Like it's not like.
This is why it feels really episodic in a way, right. In a way that most narratives don't. And I think that especially most filmic narratives don't feel episodic, but this one does. And so to make it into a film feels odd to me.
Right. It is weird to do in film, but it also makes the book read really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Because like if this was just like 400 pages like in a row without breaks, it would be like that could be dense and sort of overbearing. But like this is 24 roughly-ish similarly length chapters. Like some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter, but they're all like you can read one in about 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. And it feels like it was made, if not for television, then like for like story time over the campfire before bed.
Mass consumption.
Right?
Yeah. Did you have a favorite book?
I mean, the bloodshed stuff toward the end was really good. Let me bring up the actual, what was your favorite?
I don't know if it was my favorite because it's maybe the most unnecessary chapter in the entire book.
Well, that's also on brand for you to like though.
Bum fights.
Bum fights are good. Oh, with the one character in here that like Emily Wilson's like he has no positive characteristics. Like Homer writes nothing good about this guy. But where
they're just like, hey man, well, number one, we're gonna have an athletic competition. No, sorry, that's an entirely different chapter. That chapter is worthless to me. The one where he's with Menelaus and they're just like, we're gonna have like an athletic competition so you can see that we have the best dancers. And then the guys like sort of taunt him and he throws the discus further than everybody and
it basically felt like we need an origin story for the Olympics. So like this is like how the Olympics started.
Yeah.
I did like, and I don't know if it's always been titled this or what, but like the book Father and Son, which is like the chapter that he reveals himself to Telemachus.
Yeah, that's good.
But what I liked about that is like, oh, I know what's coming and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one. Like sometimes like when you're watching a TV show, like whatever, and like you see like this episode directed, like, oh, like when we're watching the X-Files, it's like, oh, it's a Darren Morgan episode. Like we got to strap in, like this is gonna be a good one, right? Where it's like, oh, this one's called Father and Son. And like, we both know that like
he has to reveal himself.
At some point he's got to reveal himself to somebody. So like, this is going to be a good one.
I like the Lotus Eaters and the Cyclops chapter. That's a good one.
I was wondering how they would do like, because I don't think I really paid attention to the trailer for the movie until we were reading the book. And then I saw it before 2 or 3 movies recently. And I was like, I wonder if he's going to like cast like a big dude to play the Cyclops and try to keep it like grounded. But I was like, no, like it's a
giant
big fucking thing.
Some of this stuff is so like the last Dragonians goes by so quickly. The cannibal tribe that attacks them.
Yeah.
That goes by so quickly. The Lotus Eater stuff goes by so quickly.
Well, what's also funny is that like the siren thing is like a page.
Yeah, it's a page. And that's also like, again, so there is this thing with Odysseus where he is like, By the way, Cersei said that I should be able to hear that. I should be allowed to hear the song, and you guys should like have to tie me to the thing and put this beeswax in your ear. You can't listen to the song, but I should be allowed to hear it. Odysseus is always like his ego is out of control.
Well, what's also funny to me about that is like what we were saying before about like the oral storytelling and like I don't need to tell you the rest because like that's where we are now. But like Cersei tells the entire thing and then like he repeats the entire thing, but like twist in that little way. But like we hear that story twice.
Yeah.
But I guess only to prove his ego.
Yeah, and you get that later on too. I forget the name of it. I think it's like Kleos or something like that is the term of the desire to be included in mythic songs. But he does that. That's the thing that fucks him because after he blinds the Cyclops and is escaping, the Cyclops doesn't know who he is.
Oh,
thinks his name is No Man. And because it's in like a bit of like a vaudevillian comedy.
That's the one thing I remembered from freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Because my teacher thought that was, it is funny, but he thought it was like the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And he really drilled that point home. He's like, you get it because he said his name is No Man. And so when he's calling out, I'm like, we get it. But like, I remember that's the one thing I was like, oh, I remember. Okay.
Yeah. But then when he's leaving, Odysseus has to be like, if anyone asks, tell them Odysseus blinded you. And then he's like, now I'm going to tell my dad.
Right.
Poseidon. And Poseidon's going to fuck your shit up.
Yep. And he kills, in one way or the other, like basically kills all of his men.
Every one of them. He also like sort of kills his men by not telling them about the bag of wind, Aeolus' bag of wind, because he locks it up, puts it underneath the boat, and then doesn't tell them about it. So all of his men think that it's treasure and they think that he's holding out on them. So they open it up when they're within eyesight of Ithaca.
Right.
And the wind blows him back to Aeolus' island. Odysseus goes to him and says like, hey man, and Aeolus goes, what the fuck are you doing back here? And he says, can I get another bag of wind? And Aeolus literally just goes, I should kill you. Get out of here. Like, obviously the gods do hate you. I'm not going to help you again. I don't want the gods hating me.
There is, you mentioned a little bit ago before that, you talked about like the bards and the storytellers or whatever. I think it's also a little funny. I think this is like a Homer thing, a Homerian thing. The only people more beloved than Odysseus are like the bards.
Yeah.
Where like at the end, the bard's like, you could kill me, or I could just like sing your praises. I'm like, oh, of course we need to keep you around. Like you're the most important person here. It's like, well,
God has made no one's voice more beautiful than mine to tell your story. And so that's Homer saying that's like a bit like a comedian. You know how comedians are like, we're the truth tellers of society. Every time they say that and you want to puke. I mean, we can talk about Xenia, the idea of hospitality as a marker for goodness and evil, which is something that, throughout the text, those who show hospitality are obvious protagonists, or not protagonists necessarily, but like the good guys. And then those who do not show hospitality are obvious bad guys or abuse hospitality. So the suitors abuse hospitality. Polyphemus doesn't show Odysseus hospitality or anything like that, which Emily Wilson in her introduction, we may have talked about this in the introduction earlier, but when she's talking about it, she says that it's likely that the Cyclops is representative of the people of Sicily because Greece had invaded and taken over Sicily. And so the people in Sicily did not show Xenia because they weren't like, hey, come into my house. But when they didn't do that, because this was an invading force, the Greeks took that and were like, they're not even fucking inviting us in. We should kill them.
Right.
Because of that. And they also, it's funny because Odysseus looks at the Cyclops as barbarians, partially because they're not agrarian. They don't have a culture, agriculture. They have like food that is given to them by the animals and by the gods, but they don't cultivate land themselves. And they mostly keep to themselves is what like Odysseus says. He says that they're like a solitary people, but then that ends up not being true because the second that Polyphemus is like crying in pain, all the other Cyclops are like, are you okay? And he's like, no man has hurt me. And they're like, all right, cool. But it shows that like when one of them is crying in pain,
Right.
like everybody wants to come to his aid. So it is this idea that Emily Wilson is presenting this as like a colonial idea where the Greeks feel entitled to other people's places. Because also when you think of the Cyclops, it's like they wander into his house and just set up shop there, expecting him to feed them and things like that.
Well, it seems like on the other hand, like and I know it's probably not this, but it feels like whenever they are doing the customary thing of like when they show up to a king's estate or whatever and they give the gifts, it seems like the king then just like gives the same gifts essentially back to them, but like different version of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, let me give you these robes and these cloaks and these cups and these like chalices and whatever. And then like, as long as you have that stuff and you play by the rules, society also says like you will be rewarded with like at least that much, if not more. But it just feels like they're all kind of like trading with one another. But then to your point, it's like if they encounter a society that has its own rules, but they aren't the same rules, they're like, well, look at these like rednecks or whatever. How do they not know how to behave in the world? It's like, well, they just do things differently.
Yeah, it's funny because Odysseus sort of threatens Polyphemus with the idea of Xenia because he says, like Zeus will punish people who are not kind to strangers. And Polyphemus, because he's the son of Poseidon, is essentially like, Zeus, that bitch, fuck him. and like, that's funny to me. But it also shows how outside of the culture Polyphemus is. Like, he doesn't give a fuck what Zeus has to say.
Right.
Whereas like everyone else in the text, if you invoke Zeus, they'd be like cowering, right? But Polyphemus, because he's the son of Poseidon, doesn't have to worry about that stuff necessarily. But then he is, of course, punished for not providing hospitality. He gets a spike in his eye.
I mean, it kind of feels like to me a lot of the stuff in here that like people get punished for, other than like the egregious stuff of like setting up shop in somebody else's house, it just feels like, and maybe this is just the customer at the time, maybe it's the oral nature of it, the oral storytelling, or the translation, or all of it, or none of it, or whatever. But it feels like basically it seems like the playbook is just like, just respect the gods and things will be fine.
Yeah.
And then when people step out of line or think that they're better than the gods, like even at the end, when Odysseus is like, I'm gonna do this thing, and then like Athena's like, don't do it, and he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway, and then Zeus like hits the lightning bolt right in front of him. She's like, I think he's gonna be pissed if you do that. He's like, all right, fine. But it's like, how much more do you need to know? Like, you're back here because of this god. Why would you push it? But just because I guess like that's who he is, and
yeah, that's the other thing is that Odysseus gets a lot of credit for everything, but it does seem along the way that he is, if anything, just stepping on his own feet while the gods get him home.
Mm-hmm. To your point about the bag of wind and stuff, like he could have. It also doesn't seem like he's ever that far away from home.
Yeah, it's a real exit 8 situation, right? He's just kind of like very frustratingly walking through the same circle, doing a figure 8, getting caught in wind and knocked around.
Right.
Although when there's stuff in on the map or look at the map in the beginning of the book. Does it have like, is like Syria on there and stuff?
Well, there's a couple different maps. I'll give you the book. You can take a look. I think some of them are like more modern maps. Like she explains the different maps that she includes in this version. One of which like was like what they thought the world was at the time. One of which we understand it to be, and the one sort of like in the middle of the two or something like that.
Yeah. But
there's like 4 different maps after her introduction, after her 90-page introduction, author's note, and before the actual translation of the text. And then what's also cool about the book, as Shreds looks at the map, is at the end, there is a notes section which not only summarizes each book in about a page, but also offers a glossary of like, I don't really describe who this character is, but if you want backstory on like who this guy is that like Odysseus runs across for like a paragraph or like a page or whatever, this is his story. And then there's also
so
a glossary.
Much of that.
There's so much of that.
So much of like, here's this Greek name that's never going to come up again.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to wonder before when I was saying like, you know, was the story of the Cyclops, was the story of the Siren, like, it feels like this is kind of like, for lack of a better, like this is like the Avengers, where it's like, I know all these different characters from different comic books or whatever. Like this is the one story that like weaves them all together.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't need, me being back then hearing the story from a bard, I don't need the glossary to know like who this guy was, because I know who that guy was because I've heard like 10 stories about that guy.
Well, we get that in the underworld for a little bit.
Right.
Because like a lot of famous people walk by and he's like, oh, look, it's that guy. Hey, there he is. There he is.
It feels like him going to the underworld is like not made as big of a deal as it should be.
Yeah.
Because everybody who finds out, they're like, you did what?
You died twice, and you're going to have to die again later, but you went to the underworld. Nobody gets to go to the underworld
And
twice.
it's like a book.
But it's also that's a thing that filmically is going to be great because it's like I have to fill this trench with blood and then ward off the zombies with my sword while Tiresias, the blind prophet,
Has any of that been in the
comes.
trailer that you've seen or no?
Well, there is the thing. There is like a 1 second shot of Elliot Page, who I think is playing Achilles.
Okay.
And that's so interesting because he sees his mom down there and he sees other soldiers that he feels guilt. He's got the survivor's guilt from the war. And there is this, there is this Freudian notion of a trip underground is like the journey into the subconscious, right? So that you have to confront the things that you either deeply fear or are like this fundamental part of you. So he is confronting the guilt of having missed his mother's death.
Right.
So his mother dies while he's away, likely from heartbreak from him being gone for so long. And so now, as he enters into himself and into his unconscious, into the underground, where he deals with this survivor's guilt and deals with the guilt of his mother's death, he gets to see her for the last time and relieves him and us of that guilt because we would blame him more if we knew that his mother died when he was gone without him getting to rectify that relationship before moving on.
Well, it's also kind of like a benefit or like a side effect of the order in which the story is told. Like if it was all linear and we like saw him leave or whatever and saw her heartbreak or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. With regards to that, your question, Tiresias, the prophet, is in a bunch of other stuff. Like he's the guy that predicts that Oedipus is going to
kill his father, marry his mother.
Yeah, and he's the guy that then tells Creon and Antigone like what's going to happen if he kills Antigone.
Like that's cool. Like that feels like comic books.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's this like broad world where everyone is just pulling from It would be kind of like if we like. It's kind of like if modern day writers just took like had like Henry Kissinger in books and like, Uri Geller was in the like, Prophet Uri Geller was in this, and then Henry Kissinger, and then over here we've got the fucking guy from Scientology, and over here we've got Joseph Smith, like that seems like you could do that pretty easily.
Also part of it, like if you want to play devil's advocate or whatever, is just like, I don't need to create a prophet. Like there's just a prophet I can use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And everyone, but there's also name recognition. Everyone's going to go, oh yeah, right. Cool.
The only other thing that I have in my notes that we have not talked about yet, but I mentioned to you via text, is I wonder in the adaptation how they will handle all of the disguises, because most of the time Athena is in the text. Athena does not look like Athena.
Yeah, she's Mentor, right? Which is like a name that I think that's where we get the term mentor from, probably.
Well, so much of that, like to that specific point, I'm just like, is this like where we know the words from, or are they also sharing the same root word or whatever?
But is Zendaya going to be played by? She's going to be like, she's Athena, and then Mentor is played by Chris Cooper or something, like this old guy.
Because like most of like the last third of the book, like Odysseus doesn't look like Matt Damon. You know what I mean? Like he looks like an ugly old man or whatever.
Yeah, I hope that it's like Saturday Night Live level mustaches and silly hats and stuff.
My guess, and I don't know this to be true, is have you seen? I think it's Valkyrie, the World War II movie with Tom Cruise.
No.
I think it's fine. I think it's good because most of his movies are good because he is pretty selective with his projects. But like the first 5 or 6 lines of the movie are in German, and then somebody is speaking and they basically crossfade from German to English, and then the rest of the movie is in English.
Oh, they do that in Hunt for Red, or is it? Yeah, they do that in Hunt for Red October
with Russian.
Yeah, Sean Connery is speaking in Russian, and then they zoom in on him. And then as they zoom in on him, he starts speaking in English, and then they zoom back out.
And so I like that's a way that's just like, okay, so we see Zendaya in the scene, and then we see a different angle from a character's perspective or whatever, where it's like an old man, but then we cut back in the rest of the scene, it's Zendaya, but like this from this perspective, it does not look like Athena. It looks like
Well, you know
Mentor.
what? This is a strange thought, but I've thought a lot that I'm not sure that Christopher Nolan is the right guy to make this movie. You know who I would actually love to see make this movie?
Lorne Michaels.
Michelle Gondry.
Sure.
Because I would love to see that.
Somebody with like imagination.
Yeah, I would love to see the artifice at play.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see the boats made of cardboard or so, I would like to see, and I'd like to see big puppets for the monsters.
Well, because it feels like Christopher Nolan, like, somebody who came up with Inception, like has imagination, but it feels like more is involved or interested in like the machinations than the actual, like, what does it mean?
Yeah. Whereas I think artifice is important to the story because everything is a story in it. None like okay, so Homer is telling the story, but there's also a frame narrative wherein Odysseus is telling the story. Half of this book is first person.
Right.
Odysseus telling the story. And then there are parts within that when Odysseus is like
Telling another story.
yeah, he's probably not a reliable narrator.
Right. I mean, lying Odysseus.
And he's like big upping himself the whole time, talking about how great he is and the things that he's done. Like he's the only witness to his whole story. So he's like just telling the story about how great he is. Who knows if there even are sea monsters, right? Odysseus could have just made this up. So it's like got a very Life of Pi. Have you seen Life of Pi?
Yes.
So it's got a very Life of Pi feel to it, where once he gets home, it's like, is that really what happened? And I feel like Christopher Nolan he's making fantastic stories, but he's painting them as a realist. Whereas someone like Michelle Gondry is making fantastic stories, but they're fantastic stories that are coming from inside people's brains.
Right.
And that, like calling out that artifice, it feels much more accurate to the text than I think what Christopher Nolan is, I think it's going to be a good movie, but I don't think it's going to be my kind of movie.
Well, I just feel like my issue, like I like almost all of his movies. I also find no emotion in most of them. Like, I think that's the kind of what he does.
Yeah.
I found Oppenheimer like well made and like hollow. Like I didn't think there's anything there. My favorite of his is Interstellar because it's like so much that's just like about love. And even if he's like kind of like a robot or whatever, like there's the core there, like a father-daughter love that like propels that. And I think that's interesting. But there's part of me that just like, even in spite of like how good this story is and how good this translation is, like choosing to adapt the Odyssey is like, feels like the most boring fucking decision you could ever make.
Well, I see,
like, but because it's been done and it's like the most famous story, it's like, okay, it's just like, I want to do Batman and I want to do the Odyssey. It's like, okay, like that.
Yeah.
Like do something that's like, I don't know.
Well, I think to his credit, I think this level of epic filmmaking is not done by anybody anymore, with the exception of maybe James Cameron.
But he's on a one track.
But it's certainly not done by anybody that has his level of ability.
Right. Or his budget.
Right. If you're going to get a movie, an adaptation of the Odyssey, you're going to get McGee's Odyssey or whatever, and it's going to suck. So if someone is going to do this, it may as well be someone like Christopher Nolan.
But then part of me is also like, to go back to what you're saying before about having seen The Tempest, like I kind of want, I want to see this because I think this is going to be good. I think it's like, at the very least, it's going to be like breathtaking, I hope. But part of me is also like, well, what if they're, like you were saying with The Tempest, like people wearing backpacks backwards and it's like this like reflects the thing. It's like,
yeah, ruled.
What if
so
like,
good.
And maybe they're too big now, but I was just thinking like the Daniels and like Swiss Army Man, like a movie that like is so weird and small, but like so filled with heart and creativity or whatever. It's like, why can't we just do like a small scale? I mean, even though it's an epic story, like, I don't know. It just feels like this is both like exactly who should be making it and also the last person on earth who should be making it.
That's why I've sort of talked myself into loving the idea of Michelle Gondry doing an adaptation of the Odyssey. The other person, and this is in the exact opposite direction of this, especially because he's made movies like this before that weren't that good. The other person is Tarsem.
Ooh.
Because nobody does this shit like Tarsem does. Right. And he's not given the budgets that he should be given, or like, because he is the only person I think with the unique look.
It might take him 20 years to make the Odyssey. Like it took him like 10 years to make The Fall or whatever, right?
Yeah. And The Fall was like a micro budget movie too. But I think that he could.
That movie looks like it cost $100 million.
Yeah. And The Cell is fucking amazing too. I mean, The Cell is not that great of a movie, but it like looks unbelievable.
Yeah. Or going back to what we were talking about after we recorded the Antkind episode, which is coming out later this season. And we did not record on the podcast, but we were talking about like who our guys are in movies. Like who you would go to bat to defend or like be on opening day or whatever. Like Charlie Kaufman's one of those people for both of us. And I was like the Wachowski. Like the Wachowskis making the Odyssey
it would be insane.
would be real weird, and most people probably wouldn't like it, but it would be like my exact version of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
I am excited for the movie. As you're listening to this, it comes out maybe tomorrow. Like we line this up because actually as this comes out on July 16th, I will be seeing it tonight. So like it's very tightly, you know.
You should check back in and leave a quick little 5-minute voice thing at the end.
Maybe.
Saying what you think about it.
Well, no, I can't because it'll be out by the time I see it.
Okay.
But we can figure something out. Maybe on the Your Name Here episode. No, we'll have recorded that. Whatever. We'll figure it out.
It's too complex.
Maybe I'll just write in the description for the episode. I'll amend it. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I am excited for the movie. It's just, I think Oppenheimer kind of like harshed my buzz or harshed the vibe for me and Nolan. Cause I'm like, there's just nothing there. Like it's spectacle, but with.
Well, I think also a problem that I have with him is I think he doesn't have a sense of humor.
No.
Which is always a problem for me.
Right.
Like getting someone to rewrite this script, put some jokes in.
I am also curious.
The Odyssey is funny. Remember how hard he laughed when he called him a handsome idiot?
Yeah. Not even better call Robert Pattinson a handsome idiot.
Listen, you handsome idiot.
It's also funny to me, not funny to me the way that we're talking about humor, that's the wrong word here, but Anthonus is the number one suitor.
Let's talk about him a little bit.
Like he is the one who is like the embodiment of the suitors. He's the one who has the most lines. He's like public enemy number one. And he is also the first one to die.
Yeah.
And like he might be the greatest warrior or the biggest bitch. We have no idea because he is the first one with an arrow to the throat. Arrow to the throat, arrow to the liver.
Arrow to the throat, yeah.
And he's
drinking his wine and gets the arrow in the throat.
It's also like foreshadowed earlier.
And then wine pours out of the hole in his throat.
It's also foreshadowed earlier where Emily Wilson, it's written like, he's going to be the first one to go.
Yeah, there's no point where the drama of this story is Odysseus going to get home and be okay? You know that he is.
But part of you is like, this is the guy he has to have like a showdown with. Like, this is the guy who is like number one harasser of his wife. And just like, no, he's just gone.
If you were rewriting this in a modern sense, Telemachus would probably have that showdown with him because they've had the beef the whole time.
Right.
He's been in his face. So Telemachus really shows that he's grown into a man by defeating Antinous in battle.
But yeah, calling him a handsome idiot is like, I also made the joke that if my husband was Matt Damon and he was gone for 20 years, like Robert Pattinson's like, you want to like hook up? It's like, that would be fine with me.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the casting and see who you think is like cast well versus who's might be not cast well? I think Pattinson is good. I thought that Bernthal would be better in that role.
So Matt Damon is Odysseus. Fine.
Yeah, I think they're
Fassbender to Hang Dong.
There are people, because he's naked for most of that final battle.
Yeah. Tom Holland is Telemachus.
Good, fine.
Anne Hathaway is Penelope.
Great, love it.
Robert Pattinson as Antinous.
That's fine.
Lupita Nyong'o as Helen, which again
small role. She's also playing Clytemnestra, I think.
Oh yeah, let me go to full cast because I think she's got dots after her character name, so there's probably something else here. Clytemnestra, yes. Zendaya as Athena, I think is great.
Yeah, that's fine.
Charlize as Calypso is great.
Yeah.
Bernthal as Menelaus.
Doesn't matter. That's not a role that you need John Bernthal for. John Bernthal is a physically intimidating, intense actor. You don't need him as Menelaus. He would be better off in any of the battle roles.
Benny Safdie as Agamemnon.
Benny Safdie, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. I love Benny Safdie. So
John Leguizamo as Eumaeus.
Yeah, cool. I love that. The swineherd.
Bill Irwin as Polyphemus.
The fucking crocodile hunter?
No, it's Steve Irwin. Bill Irwin. Who is Bill Irwin?
I have no idea.
American actor, choreographer, clown, and comedian. He began as a vaudeville-style stage performer.
I love it. I love it. You have to have someone with that physicality. You know who could have done it who should be in this in some degree is Denny Levant. Like put him as someone. I don't know who.
I was going to say maybe Tom Noonan. Is Tom Noonan still alive?
No, Tom Noonan died.
Samantha Morton as Cersei.
No, I don't like that.
Hamish Patel as Eurylochus.
Yeah, cool.
Mia Goth as Melantho, the maid of Odysseus and Penelope.
Yeah, that's good because she's like, Yeah, she's kind of snaky.
Logan Marshall Green as Melantho's twin brother, also kind of snaky.
Yeah, but that's also can't get Tom Hardy for the role.
Yeah, poor man's Tom Hardy.
But Tom Hardy, if he were in this, who would Tom Hardy play? He would have to be like Antinous or someone, right? You couldn't. He would have to have a role that was up there.
Oh, right. The most controversial casting is Travis Scott as a bard because Christopher Nolan wanted him to rap.
That's whatever.
I'm saying like the internet cares.
Yeah,
I
I don't give a shit about that.
Also in this,
that's weird casting though, because I don't know if Travis Scott has ever acted in anything other than that fucking Harmony Korine movie.
there are other people that I don't know by name who are just like as a shipmate or whatever, and then Elliot Page
as Achilles, likely,
but
as Achilles.
not confirmed in any way. But yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
It's also like as I was going through and trying to see who was who, like it's kind of the story of like 6 people. Like there's for a story that has like so many characters and so much time and so many places and so many whatever. It's like it's kind of just like the 6 of them or whatever.
Yeah, Telemachus, Athena, Penelope, Odysseus, Calypso, Circe.
Yeah, and Antinous kind of
yeah.
as like. I also thought like, and maybe I missed it early on, but like I assumed that there was like 4 or 6 suitors, but it's like there's dozens of guys there.
Yeah, there's like 100 of them because at the end he names them.
Yeah.
He doesn't name all of them, but he says like there's 60 from this place, 20 from this place.
Well, first off, side note, joke watch, no like actual jokes, which I mean, like it's funny, but there's not like a joke, like a knock joke.
Yeah, there's not a knock joke, but
especially for an oral tradition, like there should be some jokes. But when Odysseus is trying to prove to his dad that he's Odysseus, he's like, I'm gonna go name every tree. He's just like, there's 10 apple trees. I'm like, that's not the name of the tree. You just that's just 10 trees. 10 apple trees, 20 fig trees.
What do you think of? Do you remember Argus the dog? What do you think of him?
I don't remember Argus.
So Argus is the dog that Odysseus trains before he leaves, when he's a puppy. It's a little tiny puppy. And he trains him to leave, trains him to hunt and do all these things. And then Odysseus leaves to go to war. Odysseus comes home as the beggar. Argus is flea bitten in a pile of dung. He's been abandoned by everyone, and he's just sitting there. And he recognizes Odysseus. And Odysseus looks at him and sees that that's his dog. And Odysseus cries a little bit, and Argus just puts his head down and dies. Because he's like recognized his master now, and is like, I can be at rest.
It's not that, but that just reminds me of Jurassic Park. Do you know that episode?
Yes, yeah.
Which is like
of
the
course.
cheapest.
Yeah.
But like I still can't watch that episode again because it's so sad.
Yeah, everyone that grew up in that like 10-year period feels that about that episode.
It's so sad. Mm-hmm. I watched that episode exactly twice. Once, and then because I watched every episode with the commentary, and I'm like, I will never watch this episode again. Yeah. Too sad. I'm not even a dog guy, but it's just like the idea of.
Yeah.
Go check out Futurama if you've not. We have an email from Egg. We have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. Meg writes in Meg's reaction to the Odyssey. You can also write about it in any book. We'll just read it whenever.
Yeah, just tell us something that you've read.
While reading this book, I couldn't help but wonder if certain things were direct translations or adaptations. For example, in the beginning of the story, it is on the dawn of the 3rd day when Odysseus successfully gets to the shores of the Phaeacians. Phaeacians. This is sort of a resurrection for Odysseus. While he lived on the island of Calypso, where he would have immortality, he was in a sort of place between life and death. Athena told Penelope that she didn't know if Odysseus was alive or dead. In Christianity, Jesus resurrects on the 3rd day. It would be interesting to know if the 3rd day has any significance in Greek culture too, but in the spirit of this podcast, I will refrain from looking it up.
What is the spirit of the podcast?
We didn't Google.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
No Google policy, even though I've broken that a couple times recently. At first, I thought that I wanted to write about the intersection of war and domesticity, but upon reflection, which I feel like you kind of covered a little bit, so hopefully some of your points are covered by shreds, Egg. But upon reflection, I want to write about man versus man versus nature in the context of the Odyssey. Before the events of this book, there's the Trojan War, which is obviously man versus man. But the first half of the events of this book has Odysseus facing what is essentially the elements. When Odysseus is trying to scheme his way through Charybdis and Scylla, Athena says, no, I'm really putting myself to the test here. I feel like I'm going to have an NUI situation again.
No, it's hard. These are hard. Like
AEA. Because again, like I can hear it in the flow of the line.
Yeah.
But is there an audiobook of this translation?
I don't know. Probably. Because
part of me like wants to read it again, like a book a day leading up to the movie, but also like if I could listen to it once.
A book a day leading up to the movie is going to be like, that's like 20 minutes a day, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Piece of cake.
Easy. But the first half of the events has what essentially the elements. When Odysseus is trying to scheme his way through Charybdis and Scylla, Athena says, "No, you fool. Your mind is still obsessed with deeds of war, but now you must surrender to the gods." Odysseus was only able to survive the journey home because the gods willed it. In contemporary terms, he had luck on his side, and then in the second half of the book, as stated in the introduction to the book, he's able to use the same battle strategy he used to win the Trojan War. He's able to sneak in on his enemies and launch a surprise attack from the inside. Guy only has one move, really.
Yeah, he's clever my ass.
It is remarkable
the same thing over and over again.
that Odysseus arrives home halfway through this version. By doing this, his stories of the Phaeacians sort of just remain a story within a story rather than taking over the story itself. Is she saying that like in another translation this doesn't happen, or what is?
Say again.
It's remarkable that Odysseus arrives home halfway through this version. By doing this, his stories of the Phaeacians sort of just remain a story within a story rather than taking over as a story itself.
No, I think it's the same.
Okay. It also places more emphasis on Odysseus at home rather than his journey home, or actually it places emphasis on Odysseus' journey continuing at home while he arrives in Ithaca halfway through the story. You cannot really say he's at home while the suitors have infested his home.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's ever really at home in this entire thing.
No.
Like he gets home, kills all them, convinces Penelope that he is him, and then is like, I gotta go. I liked how funny the story could be, Egg writes. I think the funniest part was when he took off his robes to fight the other beggar and he was just totally and completely ripped. It felt so modern.
Yeah. And he like contemplates, he's like, should I kill this guy with one punch? Or should I? And then like the other, and then like I think Antinous is like, if you lose this fight, we're going to cut off your hands and feet and your dick and send you to the meanest man in the world who's going to fuck you up. Mm-hmm. It's like so messed up what he says he's going to do to him. They're like, you'd think Odysseus would be like, I guess I won't fight this guy.
But it's also like he decides not to kill him with one punch. He's like, they might know who I am if I kill him with one punch. So I better like take it easy. And I'm still going to kill him or whatever.
You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I know he played Achilles in Troy, but like,
is that Brad Pitt?
Yeah, Brad Pitt could like really be Odysseus in this.
Sure.
Like it could work.
I wonder if we'll never know maybe, but I wonder if Matt Damon was the first.
Probably, because he's like a Christopher Nolan guy.
Is he? Oh, I guess he's in Interstellar on that one planet halfway through.
Yeah, and he talks about Christopher Nolan a lot. I think they're friends.
We gotta start talking about Christopher Nolan more, I guess. Get cast in these movies.
Yeah.
Irony is used very effective in the Odyssey, Egg writes. There are more obvious examples of dramatic irony throughout where we know it's Odysseus and the person who he's speaking to doesn't.
Sure.
I especially liked on page 421, Odysseus says to Eurymachus, or quote, or if Zeus suddenly made war tomorrow and I had 2 spears, a shield, and a helmet of all of bronze, close fitted to my head, you would see me amid the throng of fighters at the front, and you would not hurl insults on my belly. Then on page 430, Telemachus says to Odysseus, now, father, I will fetch a shield for you and 2 spears and a helmet of bronze. Then there's the more subtle irony that only works when you are looking how the words are assembled on a stanza. A good example is on page 430, while Odysseus and Penelope are talking while Odysseus is dressed up as the beggar. Line 1 of the stanza reads, the master of deception answered, quote, wife, and the dialogue continues on to the next line of the stanza, quote, oh, great Odysseus, Laertes' son. There's a natural pause as your eyes move from one line to the next, so it's like Odysseus is toying with calling Penelope his wife and doing so indirectly.
Yeah, I did not even think of that as like enjambment, but that's interesting. That's a good note, Meg.
All in all, a wonderful translation by Emily Wilson, one that I think should be the definitive version, which I kind of agree with. I think I was saying to you at dinner, like I read the last line of Egg's email and I said, I feel like this is like the only version people would read, but you said that other people can read.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know I don't think Emily Wilson would think that she has the definitive translation. I think there's always going to be room for another version of it.
Anything else to say about the Odyssey?
I do have one funny thing because I took so many notes and then I didn't look at them at all when we were reading. In book 6, which is the one where Odysseus washes up on shore after his boat is smashed by Poseidon. Athena visits Nausicaa in her sleep because she has to get her to go down to the river so that she picks up Odysseus. So she essentially like gets in her, she dressed herself up as Dymas's daughter, who is Nausicaa's friend, and she like whispers in her ear, she's just like, do your laundry, you dirty bitch, or no one's going to marry you. And Nausicaa wakes up and she's just like, I got to go do my laundry. Like, Dad, give me a cart. I have to go do laundry. No one is going to marry me if I don't do my laundry.
It's not as funny as that, but what I also thought was funny was at the very end. I think it's when it's not Telemachus. It's maybe Nanny or one of the slaves. When she wakes up Penelope and it's just like, Odysseus is back, and Penelope's just like, number one, why did you wake me up? But number two, why are you lying to me? It's just like, it's not bad enough that you're lying to me, but you woke me up to lie to me.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm gonna buy. Because I own the physical copy, which I bought from Powerhouse Books in Brooklyn, which is a great bookstore if you're anywhere near Brooklyn. Great bookstore. I also have the Kindle version because I bought that forever ago. But because I have the Kindle version, I can get the audio book version for $2.
Nice. Good
narrated by Claire Danes.
Oh.
And it's this translation.
It's an interesting choice.
So I'm going to buy it for $2.12. 94% off the Audible price.
That rules.
Cool. Shout out to Amazon. A great company without flaws. Keep reading.
Today's crime is occupying the home of someone who's away at sea.
And eating all of his sheep.
Eating all of his sheep. Can't be eating those sheep, man.
Drinking all those wine.
Can't be drinking that wine.
Theme song.